So I want to talk a little bit about the moment that we had back last year, I think it was, with Elon Musk, where he was wielding the chainsaw. And I'm going to make a connection between that moment where I got a sync between Elon and the chainsaw, and then a movie that had popped into my timeline, which is The Bride of Dracula, and how her death was assisted by 4 men. One put a stake through her heart, the other chopped her head off, right? And there was a very, very strong similarity between the outfit that the bride, the vampire bride, the bride of the underworld, was wearing when she was murdered. She was obviously wearing a wedding dress, but it was very similar. It kind of was like a clown outfit in a way, but it was very similar to a girl who had just won the Grammys. Her outfit, her name was Sierra Farrell, and I had made a connection between her looking like the underworld bride, the underworld, and that outfit. There was like a connection between the two, and she had actually won 4 Grammys that night. And Grammys are wind instruments. The actual statue looks like a horn, right? So I equated that to the 4 angels, or the 4 directions of time, the 4 directions within our tesseract cube that we live within, right? And time is ruled over by the war god. Most people don't make an association between the war god and time. It's not something that you would outright see at first, but there is a direct connection between the Time Lord and the god Ares, which is the god of war, right? Because Ares represents setting things in motion, and after it's been arranged, it's then set in motion to keep in time, right? And movement itself is this act of the spring, springing forward or moving forward. The spring is the mechanism that allows for time to be an archetype or to be a rule or a law within our reality. So, Aries is very highly associated with the swastika. Actually, there's a direct connection between the swastika and the idea of the Aryans, right? Or the Aryan energy. Aries and the swastika has to do with the 4 directions of time, because time and space, direction and space are one and the same. Okay, there's a 3-fold aspect to how matter moves through time and it's arranged through time. So you have movement, arrangement, and the actual matter itself. The matter itself is direction, is time, is arrangement, okay? Because it's a trinity, they're one and the same. But anyway, to break it down so that we can actually look at time by itself instead of associating it with order and chaos, we'll just look at time right now as a function of how it works. And one of the systems that time uses is the basic 4 directions of our compass within the square. And so, God, the war god of time or movement, like his chainsaw is this movement, because a saw that moves is a chainsaw, right? So his chainsaw of right angles, okay? And that's the 4 directions or 4 winds, okay? And it gave me this idea about David, the guy that's been in the news, the singer that's been in the news that recently just murdered that little girl. She happens to be a Virgo. The murderer happens to be an Aries, and she happens to be a Virgo, the little girl that he murdered. And he dismembered her with a chainsaw and then put her inside of a Tesla. So there's a connection back with Elon, okay, and the chainsaw, and this dude, this Aries dude, and him using the chainsaw or the 4 directions or the 4 angels to deconstruct her, like the idea of the vampire bride in the Dracula movie, vampire bride was murdered. And there was 4 men there. One of them stabbed her in the heart and the other chopped her head off, right? And so this is and then he was using the cross, you know. The vampire system is the state of the iron, the gridiron. The gridiron is directions of time, right? The gridiron is the 8 directions, but when you break it down to its most fundamental level, it's the 4 directions, okay? So the 4 directions is the feminine tree being attacked by the 4 directions of the masculine tree, right? So the 4 feminine aspects are being deconstructed by the right angles of the masculine tree, okay? For a purpose, to break down what? The vampiric age, the age of debt, because when you think of vampires, you think of them taking from you, sucking from you, and turning you into this lifeless corpse, or this insatiable vessel that can never be filled up, so it's like represents debt, right? And so that's what the state of the bars of our world, which are all feminine in nature. Feminine is a holding energy, or it's an energy that keeps things in its grasp, right? So it always represents the walls or the bars or the containers, the archetypes, containers, limits, okay? And so what the masculine's directions or tree is doing to the feminine tree is it's deconstructing it through the right angles of its righteous judgment of the other side. Okay, the other side is the feminine side that has become the debt, or has become what's underneath the feet of the masculine, both mentally, physically, emotionally, and all of the essences of all of the different senses. That's what the feminine has become. The feminine has become what's under the feet, or what's the mirror of the masculine. And men are perceiving it as what's beneath them, right? And so we're changing that. We're trying to destroy it. And there's this idea of destroying it through deconstruction. Right angles are arrows, or they can be seen as teeth too, because then I get this idea of Ozzy Osbourne, right? Ozzy Osbourne had, when he died, I saw this picture of him with the cross in his mouth, like he's eating the cross. The cross represents the earth, right? The cross has always represented this cross within the circle. Okay, and these are the 4 angels. And then it gave me this idea like that I had before about Galactus, the world eater. He eats the world. He uses his cross, or his 4 directions, the 4 right angles, to destroy, or to break down, to rise the phoenix back up. So this is a situation where, alchemically, if we do this alchemically, it's positive, you know, or you could go to the other side of things where the guy David did it in a way that is not constructive at all, right? He ended up murdering someone, and so that's not good. So when we look at it through an alchemical lens, so we see here that there's an alchemical transformation taking place. The masculine is using his principles to break down the walls of the feminine, to then, for this is like a windmill, right? These 4 winds is like a windmill tunneling and funneling everything into the North Star, and down from the North Star into the eye, into the gates, okay? Because like I said before, in the middle of this cross here, there is, between the solstices, the points of the solstices, and the equinoxes, at the center may lie a secret mountain, or a garden, or a world tree. That mountain is a funnel, and it's a beginning of the creation point, or it's the area where you get the information to the beginning of creation. All right? And so the windmill is the 4 winds, gathering all of the elements of the earth, or everything within our reality, funneling it back through. Okay, and 90-degree angles in astrology is harsh judgment, or strife, or deconstruction, right? In harmonics, Aries, or a right angle would be a very flat, sharp note. Sharp notes are 90-degree